Hi, you clicked onto today's tropical tidbit for Tuesday. This little fella here is a tropical wave that's going to be coming westward, west-northwest into the western Caribbean over here into this area, and will have to be watched as it'll be under upper ridging, and we'll have to see if we can try to get some kind of development out of this in 2 to 3 days. And this will be coming in here and maybe perhaps getting up into the Gulf later on, but we'll have to watch this. Could go into Central America, but if it gets far enough north, this could be something to watch in here. Here's Tropical Storm Colin. Over here, let's take a close-up look at it. It's a very ragged appearance this morning. Not impressed with it at all. It's getting sheared, and that's not because of upper-level winds, but because the lower-level winds are so strong. This is something that we can blame the strong Azores High over here for. Such a strong flow on its southern flank that this is just getting ripped to shreds over here, and that's because strong surface flow ruins surface convergence, and it causes vertical wind shear because the upper winds are lighter, and these strong winds just try to rip out the lower level circulation. So this is not a great situation for Colin over here. It's got dry air over here to its northeast, dry air trying to sneak in to this side, and it's separated now from any source of moisture. Really, the only moisture is this envelope to its north with this tropical wave. You can see this wave out in front is setting up some convergence and cyclonic vorticity out ahead of the storm, but things aren't looking too good for this. It's moving into warmer sea surface temperatures today, west of 50 west, but I don't see this strengthening too much. Yesterday I thought it still had a chance of being a strong tropical storm. I could still see it getting up to 50 knots, but it may not strengthen at all and can remain weak. The Hurricane Center's discussion this morning at 11 a.m. even mentioned that it's hard to find westerly winds on its south side over here, and that this may open up back into a wave. We'll have to see how that goes. I don't think it'll fully open up, but it may remain weak. The position this morning down here, Hurricane Center had it up here by 50 west last night. Not happening. Storm tracks models I still think are too far north and east. I think this is still coming, maybe not quite as extreme as the Canadian, but definitely coming into this area. And I still think my forecast is still for this to threaten and impact the United States, and that won't necessarily mean a complete landfall, but if this impacts the coastline, I'll be pleased with my forecast over here. This is probably going to meander around in here because the pattern will be very fragile, and surprisingly the GFS is on the left side of the guidance and has the best idea. This is the GFS day 3. Here's the storm day 5. Day 7, you can see it brings it up, getting close to the Carolinas over here, and by day 8 it starts taking it out and weakening it. And here's the 500 millibar at day 8. You notice that there's this trough up here and it's lifting out, and you can see the ridge building back in, and there's a colon here. And this is the fragile situation because the pattern, yes, this trough will be digging down, but the pattern favors this lifting out because the MJO closing in on our area of the world sets up the ridging to build back into this area. So you get the trough coming in, but it goes out, and then you're left with this stuck down here. Now also notice something the GFS is showing that's interesting. Here's the day 8 surface map, and look at where the 500 millibar center is down here, and it's showing a decoupling of the system with the surface energy getting taken out, but the mid-level center hangs back behind, and this is showing the tendency for this to just stall out and sit in here. It takes the energy out, but it leaves a part of the system behind. So you can see this is going to be a close and fragile situation, but I think this is coming up in here, and we'll see what it does in here, but it's going to slow down and will, I think, impact the coast somehow in here still. I'm sticking to that forecast. I made it many days ago, and I'm going to stick with it right now. I still think the models are too far north, but this is likely to be a weaker system. I don't see anything strengthening this up into a powerful hurricane in this area. So they're likely to see a weaker system, so not a big concern for the southeast coast, but they should keep an eye on it. Now here are the 500 millibar height anomalies for the month of June. Notice the big positive over here with the ridge over the southeastern United States. This is very reminiscent of 2007. Big trough up in here, and what this does is this squeezes the tropics, and you keep most of the activity down to the south over here, and this ridge is what directed Alex into Mexico over here. And this big ridge is not the greatest position that you want, and if you want the United States to get threatened by storms and you want a lot of activity in the tropics, you need this ridge farther north. Now look what happened in July. Still had a ridge down here, but it's weaker, and notice that the negative anomalies reversed to positive over here. You've got more ridging showing up over Canada, over here in the negative, the trough gets kicked out over here towards Europe. So we're getting more height anomalies in here, and this is going along with what the European was forecasting for the summer, with the height anomalies focused in here. And if we get this ridge farther north in here, then it opens up the tropics to start bubbling more down here, and you get more activity, and you can get stuff coming more towards the United States and threatening our coastline, as well as the Caribbean. Remember, getting this up here is what we had in 2005, and we all know what happened in this area of the country in here. So something to keep an eye on. And look at what the GFS is showing now. Day 15 over here, high heights over low heights over here. Big ridging up here over the northeastern US, Canadian Maritimes. You get lower than normal heights in here. What this means is air tends to pile up in this area, and this is showing lower pressures and upward motion over here. So this is the pattern that's setting up for the heart of the hurricane season, and this is something that's very dangerous for the United States over here, to get a lot of action and a lot of landfalls. So this is something to keep an eye on to see if this stuff verifies. Now here are the surface pressures for 5 days ago. This is high in the Pacific, low over Australia, low in the Atlantic. Nothing new here. This is exactly what we've been seeing all summer long, right, with the La Nina. These are the sea level pressures for just yesterday. Still low in here, but notice that they've reversed over here over the Pacific and have become low. And what would this be changing? If you said SOI, Southern Oscillation Index, then that was a very good answer, because you see that the positive burst occurred over here in tandem with the high pressures over the Pacific a few days ago, and they have since tanked, and we've got negative numbers showing up now in the dailies, and that would go along with these reversing over here to lower pressures, higher pressure over here. What does this mean? Well, since air flows from higher to lower pressure, you get net westerlies, burst of westerlies coming across the Pacific, and this is sort of like a mini Nino burst, a mini El Nino Kelvin wave coming across the Pacific, and that's a burst of westerlies coming across here. And often what these will do is they will try to enhance upward motion for a very short time, and the eastern Pacific might try to get them a storm in here in a week to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks in here, and then the burst comes across and tries to do stuff in the Atlantic. And with the La Nina pattern the way it is, the burst doesn't stop here, it comes right into the Atlantic, and you get funny business going on. And what usually can happen is sometimes you get a trough to dive down the eastern seaboard, and then it lifts out really fast because of the La Nina, and you can sometimes end up with trough splits down here that can cause tropical mischief close to home, or ventilate something coming out of the deep tropics in here. So this is something to keep an eye on, because these westerly bursts can force convergence over here once they get past the eastern Pacific. And here's the MJO. One of the reasons this is happening is because since the MJO can't get up in here into the Pacific to give them upward motion because of the La Nina, it's coming into the neutral area right now. Here in the center means it's ill-defined and not focused anywhere in particular. So when that happens, this is pretty much the best place for this to start happening, and you get the burst of westerlies coming across. This is the best time to do it. So this is when the Pacific is trying. And notice also how the MJO is coming back towards this area of the world. This is going to be something to watch carefully. This is way behind. This is way ahead of the model forecast. Some of them still have it up here before coming. This is getting analyzed way back here. This will be coming back into here, and we're going to have to really watch this, especially as we get towards the middle part of the month of August here. This is really going to wind up. We're already seeing the bursting starting over here, upward motion returning to the Atlantic, and once it gets in here, we're probably going to start seeing a very big burst of storms, and we're going to have very little break once this gets over here. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on this situation over the next couple of weeks. So overall recap, tropical wave has to be watched in the western Caribbean, could cause some trouble in a couple days, perhaps moving north into the Gulf of Mexico. Colin, not a big deal for the islands, probably just a weak moderate tropical storm, probably not a big deal for the southeastern US either, probably coming west of the NHC track in the models, but shouldn't be too much of a scare for residents over the southeastern US. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching.